Yeah, that can make
I'm
sense.
more on top of the mic. He
Well, he puts it on the side, but he's still right on top of the mic.
Yeah, that's what I told him to do. But since I talk softer.
Softer?
Softer? Is softer not a word?
Oh, good God.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing. I also counted in some of that feedback. You made up at least 3 or 4 words in several episodes.
I am a wordsmith.
You're like, oh, it's a word now. It
is a word.
It's almost a thing now that you are illiterate.
Everyone knows that. How do you not know that I'm almost illiterate?
It's something I didn't notice the first time, and then it happened again.
Have you never noticed that throughout the entirety of our 10-year friendship that I'm partially illiterate?
No, because I'm not listening to our conversations ever again. It's in and out. But now I'm going back.
Now you're going to listen to me when we're talking. You're going to be driving home. You're going to be like, did he just make up a word?
Welcome to the Couch Trolls Podcast with your hosts, Dave and Das Bruce.
How you doing, man?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Not too bad. So we got a little special thing going on today. We actually have our audio engineer in-house on mic with us today.
Hey.
Everybody, introducing Brian.
Hello.
How you doing today, man?
Doing all right. Busy day, but
glad you could join us.
Yeah.
So we got a special episode going on today because we decided to bring Brian in because we wanted to have a guest. We want to try doing 3 people.
And it's our 10th episode.
It is. It's an anniversary episode, so we thought we would go and spice it up a little bit.
We're going to abuse every milestone we can possibly find.
Absolutely. 25 is just going to be, audio of me
You do a Sweet 16 episode.
Oh, we could. There you go.
And it had to be about Mary-Kate and Ashley's Sweet 16.
Oh, that game is terrible. That game is terrible and wonderful all at the same time.
Best 16th birthday games.
But with the episode being this way, we thought that we would go and bring Brian on because Brian and David have something in common that I don't, which is going to put me in kind of a moderator position for this whole thing.
With the fact that you don't have kids.
I don't have kids. Brian, how many kids you got now?
I've got 2 kids. I got a 3.5-year-old and a almost 1-year-old.
And David, what are you up to now?
Well, I think 3.
You think 3? Do you get confused now? Like your kids got kids over at the house and you're like, when did we have these other 2?
Dude, sometimes days are just so busy that I can't remember what's going on. But typically I have a 9, a 6, and a 5-month-old.
Nice. All right. Well, I don't know. Let's do this. Brian, give a little bio, a little intro about yourself.
Yeah. Who are you?
Who am I?
Other than just the guy who goes and cuts together the sound
to figure
and
out
did
what
the music
you've done for audio.
The man behind the curtain.
Yeah. I've been working as an audio engineer for the past basically 9 years, something like that. I don't know. I went to school for audio and then I ended up doing audiobooks for 8 years and now I'm doing audio video install stuff, but I've done a lot of bands on the side and that type of work. So, and I have a wife that I got married soon after high school because we dated in high school and we've been together for a long time, over almost 10 years.
What kind of games do you play?
What kind of games I play? I don't have much time to play games being a dad, and I've always been kind of like a casual gamer more than like a hardcore gamer. So I play stuff that I can play for a little bit and put down. Not saying I don't like longer games, but being a dad especially has lent itself more to that. I also am always a little bit behind the curve with games, and Bruce can attend to this because he's known me for a long time. I'm always just a little like a system behind everyone else, and so I kind of consider myself a little bit of an old school gamer.
I think you kind of fit into the same mold as me and everything. And with you guys both being dads and having lack of time for games, we got like daddy gaming episode going on.
It's all good. But it is funny though. Like even like my only time, I can only think of a few times I've even played games with you. But my favorite is when we beat Guitar Hero 1 on PS2.
Oh man.
We had a party at my house. And me and Brian stayed up all night.
I think we should mention
that. Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Because I got stuck on Cowboys from Hell. I could not beat that song.
I think we should mention that we all went to high school together, which is generally how we know each other. You and I had class together. How did you meet David? I think I met him through
Probably through...
I think I met...
Friend of show, Ned.
No, because I wasn't even that big a friends with Ned in high school.
Not through you though, but I'm pretty sure I definitely met Brian through Ned.
Yeah, I knew of David beforehand, but it was through just kind of that friends group.
And
that
Brandon knew Kyle, and Kyle hung out with Ned.
There's a bunch of friends in this weird group.
It's just a cluster, which is funny because Ned does radio stuff, and
he's got to be our next guest for sure. We definitely have a few other guest ideas in mind, and friend of the show Ned is definitely going to be one of them because he's a huge advocate of horror games.
We put Canada on the intro. I mean, you hear him weekly, so
so we should probably at some point, invite him on the show as well.
Him on too.
But no, today we're definitely here just to kind of talk about video games and how they've really affected how we play because of kids. I mean, I can definitely attest to I don't play my RPGs like I used to. I love The Witcher. I love Final Fantasy games, but Final Fantasy 15 took me probably 3 times as long to beat just because of pregnancy stuff and then just being busy with the kids. I can't stay up as late. I got more to do. Things just constantly stack up where it just really hampered down on what kind of games I can play and how much I play.
Yeah, I really like fantasy games like that too, but because I love Final Fantasy 7, like I said, I'm always a little bit step behind. So,
8 games behind.
Yeah, a little bit behind.
By the time you beat that, the remake's gonna come out.
I beat 7, 8, and 9, and then I was starting to get into 10 when I think music stuff kind of took up a lot of my time. So I kind of went away from it, or games that took a lot of time. But
that was like high school though, man.
Well, that's why I've missed a lot.
Yeah. So your gaming pretty much is like you're like, oh, I got this new game. It came out in PS2, 2005.
and then I had a big break there. Like the whole first-person shooter came out. Like I went from 007 to the remake 007 for Wii.
For Wii?
Yeah, that was like my first-person shooter that I actually played any significant time with.
And you were probably like, why did this need a remake? The game's still good.
Right.
It came out a year ago, guys.
Honestly, though, but although you say you're behind, you have a significant amount of Nintendo stuff.
Yeah, I've stuck with Nintendo just for like I kind of consider myself a fanboy. That I'm not like huge. It happens to fit my game style really well. Is Nintendo games because my wife will play them. My kid likes the characters. I can play them. I can pause them, walk away. Like I don't have to spend a lot of time playing them, and because of that, they have just found rotation in my family. I mean, that's why I've kind of stuck with Nintendo.
Now, I got a question then, because you said, you can't really play the RPGs anymore, David. And you used to play the RPGs. How is like a turn-based RPG not a good move for like dads where it's like, oh, you can just put the controller down because, it waits for your turn?
I would say saving would be my biggest issue with it. Even like Final Fantasy 7. I love that game, but save points could be 20 or 30 minutes from one another. And sometimes with kids, you have no idea when you actually are stopping. Like something could just come up out of nowhere, and then you have to walk away for a long period of time.
I was just gonna say the other thing, like just any story-based game like that, it's tough to. It's like reading a book. Like you might get a chance to read a little bit, but if you have to be constantly pulled away, you forget where it's going on, and so it's like, oh, where am I going in this level? Like heck, even like Zelda can be tough for that.
Oh yeah,
like that's the reason why I'm not a Zelda fan, but I tried getting into one, and it's part of the reason why I didn't continue was because I kept getting pulled away, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
No, it actually would work for you. Breath of the Wild, as weird as it is, Breath of the Wild, instead of having like your standard like temples, you have 100 little temples. So most of the little temples take 5 to 10 minutes to do, and there's practically no story in that game at all. It's like, the story's about as deep as Shadow of Colossus.
Yeah, I kind of almost need
I love that game.
Kill 4 big bad guys and then go fight
Shadow of
Ganondorf.
the Colossus, would you consider that a good, like, I can pick this up and throw this down? Or that's probably too scary because if you got kids around and everything. Do you guys have like a bedtime thing where it's like after 8 o'clock I can get on this game then?
I've kind of developed it where after the wife and kids go to bed,
you put the whole family to bed.
I got like the 1 hour gap of like, what do I want to play in this 1 hour? This is a very valuable hour, and
gotta
it's like
get Xenomorph hide and seek.
And I think that's why I hate playing Overwatch with you. It's because I don't want to spend my one valuable hour playing the same thing over and over and over again. When I could be playing something with a valuable story or a new experience. No, I'm gonna just be a character, build a turret, and just kill people. It just doesn't do it for me.
Well, and I mean, honestly, I use that time too because I'm always a step behind. Like I haven't done that much online gaming, and so that's my chance.
You play
to
Overwatch with us every once in a while.
Yeah, that's what I get a chance. Like when it's later at night, and I'm not worried about lack of sleep. I'll jump on and hope that some of you guys are on to play Overwatch because that's like one that also, again, going back to first person shooters, like that's the first person shooter that I've really like enjoyed and dug into. And so that's fun for me, and actually get to talk to you guys because, you know, instead of just being a dad.
We got team
24/7.
chat. You got like, 20 minutes for a match and you're good. I mean,
And see, I think
it's a good time frame.
20
I think.
minutes almost feels too long for me now.
Really?
Yeah,
I can see
especially
that.
well now that I have a 5-month-old. Before the 5-month-old, that was fine, but now I run into the really hard part of if she suddenly has to go, I have to like change her diaper or she has a fit. I have to do something. I can't walk away from Overwatch because of how competitive that game is, and you can get booted, and it's just.
Oh yeah, well they'll just kick you out if you're inactive for so long.
Yeah, and like
By the time you
Fortnite,
change a diaper and come back, you're like, fuck.
like Fortnite is my big game more recently, and it's like as much as I want to say it's my big game, I've had several matches where I just got dropped because I walked away for 5. They have a 5-minute, it might be 5 or 10, but I've had to walk away. I've come back. Oh, you're booted from the game. You lose all your progress. It's like, how can I dedicate my valuable time to a game that that punishes me for doing the things I have to do in my life?
So both having infants, what do you got as like games for dads with tiny children's babies things?
Newborns and toddlers.
Yes, the words that you use that I don't understand.
I talking to David ahead of time or before this, he made mention of mobile games, which I'll admit I probably should have done, or I've done a little bit of, but like he sounded like he had a lot more.
I had to. I honestly, like, I found myself too frequent because I'm not a TV guy. Honestly, it takes a lot to get me into a TV show. The superhero ones grab me, and some of the big ones like Game of Thrones. But in general, I do not sit down and just watch cable TV unless it's Sunday and there's football.
Were you
on.
able to watch Game of Thrones with kids, but you're like, oh, I can't play certain video games?
I don't watch them with kids, and when you have a newborn, that's a game changer because I sat down with a newborn and watched the entire quadrilogy of Alien movies. I can do whatever I want. I have to be able to on a flip of a switch do other things. So I can't be too focused.
You don't worry that your newborn infant watching that is gonna like somehow like preemptively scar the child with the aliens. Come on, man.
No.
Like you make a face at a kid wrong and they cry.
If anything,
you're gonna be like, look at the xenomorph popping out of someone's chest.
If anything, I'm just exposing her to good TV. And good
Yeah,
movies.
fair enough. Brian, are you as reckless and abandoned with your newborn as David is with his?
Newborns, I mean, when they're newborns, I don't care. You can do whatever. You can watch whatever
See?
you want. I mean,
This is your problem, not ours.
It doesn't matter.
I like how I'm more concerned for you guys as newborn children than you are.
It's when you get up around the year age and they start recognizing what they watch is where you start kind of becoming conscious. And then it's about 2 years old or so, at least was for my son, where he started becoming aware of what you were watching. Yeah. And becoming scared of things. And so because of that, like one of the games I was trying so hard to get through as he was little was zombie or the Wii zombie game, Zombie U.
Oh, Zombie U.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was trying to get through that, and there was one point where like my wife was starting to like not really like it when she doesn't like scary stuff, and then my son started kind of picking up. I could see him like glaring at the screen. I'm like, I can't play this anymore. I got to give up.
Yep, and see, like when I was playing the mobile games, mobile's perfect because I thought the biggest thing with the newborn is almost noise. You can't have anything too loud because if there's like a random explosion, you could wake the baby up. And it's little things like that. So, but with mobile games, I love card games. I'm a huge fan of card games. Like I found games called like Eternal Card Game and Yu-Gi-Oh! Both like trading card games on your phone that you can pause while you're playing.
Of course, Yu-Gi-Oh has a mobile game.
Of course they do because the game itself it's a sound game.
It lends itself to that.
And the free to play models in both of those games I actually liked because I never spent any money on them and I played plenty of hours. But then games like Hearthstone, which I still cannot figure out why it's as popular it is.
It's fun. I like it.
There's a huge paywall though. Like you play it for like an hour and suddenly you're like, man, I wish I had to put this money in just so I could kind of play at a competitive level.
Mobile games, Brian.
I think like I didn't get into them as much. I've had a few of them. Super Mario Run, of course.
Oh, did you actually pay for it though?
I did.
How is the rest of the game? Because I even now, like my 6-year-old, I let him play, and he loves the first couple levels. But I'm like, do I want to spend what was it like $10?
I don't even remember what it was,
It
but
was
probably more expensive than it should have been. But I can say it was more expensive than it should have been because I beat the whole thing. No, yeah.
Only game Brian's completed in the last 6 years was Super Mario Run.
Now is it
almost true.
Is it a good game?
Like it was fun for me. It was one of those. I find this with with mobile games in general, like there just becomes a point where there isn't anything further to go on to do on them. But that was well, I mean, that's with Mario in general. I feel like you kind of get to the end of the thing, and unless you want to go back and get every little coin and every little secret, it's like,
Yeah,
Which
but
I'll admit, I actually did on Super Mario Run.
just
I got
trying to-
every single.
Okay, I've done all the ones on the free version. I've gotten all those, and even
There's some
third,
tough ones.
That third tier of coin is
You also
actually
get-
tough.
the black coins or whatever, because it's like yellow, then purple, then black. I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
those ones, and then you do get different characters though. Like Luigi can jump higher.
Really?
So
That changes it up.
yeah,
then.
it changes it up, and then there's the whole mode to get like more buildings and stuff where you can play
The
against
town
other people.
building aspect was
Yeah.
what threw me off on that.
I'm kind of on it.
Infinite runners
And then
need no depth. Like they need to get over that.
They added another thing, remix to it
Okay.
recently. Recent to me at least, because I didn't open it for a good while.
When you updated it, it's from
Yeah, I
6 years ago.
I played it out, and then I didn't touch it, and then I got my phone and I downloaded everything, and I'm like, I'll download Super Mario Run again, and I was like, remix. Oh, okay. So they're trying to add more to it, but it was definitely one of those. I played through it and it was done, but yeah, it was fun. It was definitely challenging. So I did enjoy that aspect.
My main problem with mobile games is it feels like it's just like a numbers game where since you can just kind of make everything go to a set of infinity, it doesn't really matter, and you're not actually like obtaining a goal. There's no actual end point or end value to it and everything. But I do have a side question for you guys in regards to the mobile thing, and that is like, do you guys let your kids play like on the tablet then? Because I know a lot of parents do nowadays, and
Dude, screen time is probably the biggest millennial problem, I think, for parenting. Because everyone is all over the place on, like, I see parents, like when I go to the grocery store, their kids on their phone the whole time walking through the grocery store. I never did that as a kid, so I'm like, my kids are not.
But did you have a Game Boy growing up though? Did you sit in a cart and play a Game Boy?
My Game Boy? The only time I use it, laundromat, and when we on road trips. Otherwise, I only play Game Boy at home. But I can't believe how much people allow their kids to play on their tablets. But again, every kid is different and is parented differently. So it gets kind of touchy on how you feel about that. But like my kids, we give them a little, like my 9-year-old just got a tablet. I put all of her stuff on there. She's got like YouTube Kids and PBS apps and stuff. And
Enough safety settings built in at least.
oh, that's all it is. It's all really
Okay.
safe thing. The most dangerous thing she has is Pandora.
Your kid doesn't accidentally open up Pornhub, where she'll get as
Dude,
a
there's no-
Pandora ad for Adam and Eve.
There is no browser.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it is. We have it that locked down, and it's weird for me to be that parent because when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I watched Freddy Krueger movies when I was like 8, and it's just weird. I mean, what about you? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, my son hasn't got too into it yet. We try to limit the amount of screen time that he's actually playing, but that's the whole thing is he hasn't quite got into playing yet by himself. He's more into watching us play, which has been the cool thing for me is I've been able to show him like all the characters in Mario, and he can tell you all the Mario characters. But yeah, he hasn't really gotten to playing too much except for just a couple little like kids games that we use when we're at restaurants and things, just to keep him occupied while we're doing things. Or if we're in a group where we know we can't go anywhere or he can't move, we sometimes allow him to play. But we really use them for those circumstances only, unless he specifically asks for them, and he doesn't do that very often. So luckily we're able to limit the screen time, but it's definitely something that's going to be tough moving forward.
yep.
But right now for me, it's not a big issue.
Have you guys like been to like an Applebee's or a Olive Garden where they got
B-Dubs,
this?
no, dude, B-Dubs is awesome. They actually have tablets with free games for kids to play, so you can sit and watch a football game, and your kid can be on a tablet, and you can get your food, and it's just chill. Like, I love going to B-Dubs for that. I can't stand their food.
I love B-Dubs food, man.
I can't
Dude,
stand
that
it.
Caribbean jerk is where it's at, and that Thai curry.
All it is
wings.
frozen Tyson wings.
I
with
don't
some
care.
sauce
It's
on it.
delicious. It's delicious.
But
You eat chicken nuggets all the time. Like I
Yep.
remember, like you're
and it
all
costs $4 for a pound.
You're
of 'em.
all super healthy. Like, oh, I got to run marathons. I can only eat food that's good for me. And then like fucking open up the freezer and there's this giant thing of like dinosaur nuggets. And this was like pre him having kids.
They're fun nuggets, Bruce.
See,
Fun nuggets.
Dude, I love buffalo wings. So I'm just, you guys just said buffalo wings. I'm like, man, I'm hungry.
dude, we should.
Because
Go
I
get
love
some after
buffalo
this.
sauce.
We gotta get a sponsorship going
Anyway,
here. Where we
yeah,
can just get
no,
a
brought to you
B-Dubs
by
gift
B-Dubs.
I have heard about the whole tablet thing at B-Dubs. I haven't actually taken advantage of it yet, but I know you can do that even for the adult games like the trivia game.
I'll play poker when I'm there.
Yep. Now,
Yeah.
when are you going to actually introduce your kid to let him sit down and play like a Nintendo game with you?
Are you
Where
going to do
co-op?
Nintendo or are you going to go with tablet?
Well, I mean,
What are you going to put him in front of first? Because
I don't think it matters to me. I mean, and it's just whatever he's interested in, I think. And for me, that would be probably Mario because he's already invested into that.
the reason why I ask though is I do actually have a thing. I remember because like tablets and stuff, I always worry about the little microtransactions that pop up. That because those things are super predatory to go and get kids to just tap stuff, and they
A lot of times, kids' games don't have that though. Most of the time, I'm sure there's some out there, but
I feel like
David, you might be.
It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
I see it a lot more in kids games because most kids games are free, and they even have like the education apps. They'll be like, oh, mouse ABC. Download it, and it's like, oh, you can show the kid the first part of it. And
Sure.
it's like it's almost like Mario Run, but
Yeah.
on a much shorter like line where they're like, here's one little thing. Oh, now it's $5 if you want to see the rest of it. Or like my daughter has a fashion app where every piece of article of clothing has money associated to it outside of the first line. It's
So
like that is deceptive as hell.
That's why I'm asking. Like, do you
Well-
start with a tablet game? Because tablet, I think, is more orientated towards younger audiences. Like you said, kids have tablets, and you see kids in there,
more variety
grocery
too.
shopping. Like it's available, it's there, it's easy for them to learn off of. And I mean, we're getting technology in younger and younger kids' hands.
Well, I kind of have two things to that. Is
Okay.
one is like that's one thing we've had to do really careful when we do let our kid play games on our phone. Is there's I can't remember some sort of Apple has like a safety lock setting where you can actually lock it and they can't like hit a button or anything like that.
Hey Brian,
to
does
get out of it.
PlayStation 4 have that? What movie
No,
did you?
he doesn't, Bruce. So when you leave my child with a controller, he can buy a movie.
I put it
Which-
up on top of the shelf. Okay, I didn't know he was going to be able to get up there and get to it.
Which I will say that it's not such a big deal. Like,
Hold on. Tell the story. Tell the story that way the audience knows what's going on here.
So what happened is Bruce was over and my kid was, like 2.5, 3.
So don't let
And-
Bruce buy kids.
Yeah, and so I'm very unfamiliar with PS4 because I really only use it for like Overwatch, and I'm not kidding. That's about
Overwatch
it.
machine.
But
Yeah,
you have gold, so there's or not gold. What is it?
PlayStation Plus.
I have
Plus, I'm
PlayStation
thinking-
Plus purely so I can play with you guys and Ned and stuff, people from other spots.
I was showing you the free games for the month, though. I
So,
almost said live.
yeah,
That's gold with live is Xbox.
Bruce was showing me around because I am inept on PS4, and he was showing me around, and so I can't remember what reason we ended up walking out of the room for a quick second.
You had to go like grab something in the room. You're like, hey, while you're here, can you give me a hand with this?
Yeah, and my son decided to open up or grab the controller like he does so often, and ended up probably just hitting X a few times and bought a movie.
What
Now,
movie did he buy? Do you
I don't
remember?
remember. It's the second one.
It was like a
It's of
sequel too.
series.
So you're like, oh, great.
Well,
now we got to
and-
find the first one.
Yeah, the funny thing is I was watching a preview the other day of something, and I'm like, oh, that movie sounded kind of good. And my wife goes, yeah, we already have the second one. I'm like, oh, cool.
I told you I was sorry about that. I said I would reimburse you for it.
Yeah. But that being said, actually PlayStation kind of ticks me off that they are able to do that. Like that really ticked me off that my kid was able to do that without having to put in a password or something. Whereas like my phone, like I have an Apple iPhone, so your thumbprint can buy it. And I actually turned that off where I actually have to put in my password anytime I
You
purchase
can do that with
anything.
PlayStation as well.
Well, they don't have that set up from the start.
It's not a default setting.
They
but
should have
I
it
don't-
as default setting.
I actually agree with you. I think it should, and I think it was on PlayStation 3. Every time you bought something, you had to put your password in, and I don't know why that switched, but I can easily see even my kids doing the same thing where but I guess I monitor them closely on the consoles because I know of that risk where I'm like, this
No,
is
Dave,
not-
you don't
not as-
understand. We were out of the room for maybe 20 seconds, and we hear
which
a
is
movie
impressive.
playing.
I mean, that's
No,
actually
it was
pretty
super impressive because like we set the controller up high enough, walked out
Bruce set
20
it up
seconds.
high enough.
Whatever, man. I'm short to begin with. Give me a freaking break here.
Would you put it on a stool?
Yeah.
He put it at his height to grab it, which is about the same as my kids.
Well, come on, man. A little leeway here. So do you think you'll start them more on like a console that's not internet connected then? Be like, hey, here's a original Nintendo, or here's a Super Nintendo. What are you thinking you're going to start them with?
I actually like that better, but I think to start it off, like I whatever he is interested in, I will probably let him play. But that being said, I would rather have a console game because I want to play with him. I want games to be something that we do together, especially early on.
Especially, there's a lot of bonding. I feel like what I've gotten from some early games is they look forward to playing not the game, they look forward to playing with you.
Yes.
So there is something about, instead of watching your kid kind of get through a game, there's something that it feels much closer when they rely on you, because especially if you're the cool one in the game, like if you're playing with someone and you're really good at everything, because it's a kid's game.
It's the older brother scenario, but with children.
100%.
Yeah, like they're like, whoa, you can do, like, I remember, because kind of the first big game I can highly recommend is Disney Universe, not Disney Infinity, which was the Toys to Life game, but it's called Disney Universe. It's a bunch of Disney levels where you're an avatar that can switch your costume, kind of like in Costume Quest. And what you do is you just play through the levels. It's super easy. It's dual thumbsticks, so they have to learn how to use both thumbsticks. And it's 3D platforming with a double jump. So you're teaching your kid how to do double jump, how to do platforming, and how to use 2 thumbsticks. So those are all really essential things for any video game, modern video game, I should say.
Do you think kids got it easier growing up with like games the way that they do now, opposed to the way that we did growing up?
They have more variety. I mean, there's so many like bad games and good games now versus back when we were kids. They were all just 2D platform side-scrolling games. I mean, there was no variety to my Sega. I played Sonic 2, and then I played Kid Chameleon, and then I played Vector Man. All it was is jump to the right. I mean, that's all you did. And
I think that's one thing that is kind of like, I feel like newer games, like I catch myself in it where I was like, I gotta learn this game. Like, and going back to being a dad thing, like that sometimes stinks, and that will keep me from playing a game
because you don't have the time to learn it.
I have to invest into learning how to play it. It's like, I don't want to do that. I don't have the time for that.
Anything on a Wii, because of the Wiimote and the nunchuck. I'm like,
you know what's funny is I actually am the exact opposite. It's like PS4. I'm like, what? Like you have to select this and just let me shoot someone. But it's one of those things where just the ease of games. I like older games for that reason with kids, and that's why I probably will push my son towards something older. Like we'll probably bust out the Sega or something like that, because first of all, there's less buttons on the controller. And then second of all, it's just a little bit easier gameplay, in general.
Bullshit.
Sonic.
Have you played Lion King?
Aladdin.
No, Aladdin's hard too.
I'm not saying there's not hard games.
The difficulty's there. It's just there's less buttons to press to die.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as a little bit of the hardcore old gamer in me wants to be like, no, you're going to learn the old games first.
Contra. You are learning Contra.
You're going to learn the difficulty of old games, all the stuff I went through before you play your own games.
Do you think 2D games, do you have like a 2D game that you're going to be like, hey, here's introduction for 2D games. Hey, here's introduction for 3D games?
Honestly, I love...
Because David suggested, what was the Disney one?
Disney Universe.
Because it kind of taught them the rules. What would you go for like a 2D game to teach them?
I actually, like what he mentioned, I actually used the Sega collection for PS3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Sega collection, because I thought back to like what some of the games I liked, like Vector Man. Vector Man was hard, but the first one was forgiving enough where I was able to introduce my kid to a basic 2D game, and I didn't have any way to really play Mario, because as much as
you're not a Mario guy.
Well, I didn't have a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo growing up, so I didn't learn any of those games until probably high school. But to go back now, I still think Mario 3 is an incredible game and is a great intro point for any kid.
I would agree. I didn't get to as much time with Mario 3, but the original Mario I played a ton of.
Yeah, I watched you beat it in like 10 minutes?
Yeah, kind of addicted.
At your birthday, you speed ran Super Mario 3. You're like...
Super Mario, I cannot do 3.
Okay.
I'm very terrible at 3. But no, the first one, it was going back to getting my first Game Boy, and I got Super Mario Deluxe, and so I just played the crud out of that game because that was part of my childhood. So I just played a bunch.
Now, would you guys rather put a handheld? Oh, sorry.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing is I would rather, you're just asking if we'd rather have a handheld. I'd rather have it on a bigger screen. I want to, I want to play with my kid.
The hands-on approach where we want it to be part of the experience. We don't want to be observing the experience. We are the experience.
Well, would you rather, I was going to go with, would you rather give them like a Game Boy, or would you rather give them a tablet?
Neither.
Neither?
Neither. I right now my kids have 3DSs.
But don't you think it's better for their hands with how tiny controls and stuff are?
What I like about the 3DS right now is both of my kids have Mario Kart 7. they can play together. Because that's one of the features of a 3DS. They can play each other. Same with Smash Brothers. They can play with me on the Wii U using
That's
their.
true.
So the interconnectivity that Nintendo's at least attempted, I've actually gravitated towards. And even to just pull back a little bit, on Wii U, we play Minecraft. I may not like Minecraft at all, but it is a cooperative game.
Why do you not like
kids
Minecraft?
Love. The graphics hurt my face. Like I can't stand looking
You
at
didn't get
Minecraft.
that Xbox One S HD 4K.
It still looks like terrible paint splattered on a wall. It looks like Atari graphics blown up. and I just can't stand looking at that game. But Nintendo has a Nintendo theme level. So you go in and all the blocks can be question marks, and he loves it and he wants me to play with him. So I'm like, so I'm picking at it.
Yeah, the great thing about Nintendo is that fact is, I mean, as much as I know you guys have hated on Nintendo.
No, I love Nintendo. David doesn't. You're filling in for me today as far as the Nintendo fanboy.
I'll admit, yeah, like I get that the hardcore gamers are against or are not a big fan of it.
Thanks for calling me a hardcore gamer.
That's the whole point of Nintendo is anyone can gravitate to it and play it rather quickly and learn it. Like, okay, going back to gameplay stuff, you were wondering like how do you teach your kid? Like that's why I like the original Mario, because you've showed me videos, Bruce. Of, like
the
why
game design,
the
why
game
it's so
design on
brilliant.
that. And honestly, that's part of the reason why I like Nintendo so much is the game design is so well done in most cases, where like you can pick up and play so easily and understand the concepts of the game.
Where Sega doesn't have that. Screw you, Billy Hatcher. GameCube, no one.
I don't know, and like even with that, I think with Nintendo, I like their games. I always think they have great quality games. I just don't think they have enough variety, especially for adults. And I think that's where it always drives me more towards the Sony stuff. Is I just like a different variety of games. Like right now, my son really likes Rocket League. Rocket League just released on Switch. It's been out for
out for a while.
It's been out for a few years. And even like games like Minecraft were out for a long time before even hitting Nintendo. And I think Nintendo's either late to the party or they're not invited to the party.
Here's my thing with Nintendo being super late to the party. They're late, but everything's dressed up fancier and better. Like when you get a game on Switch that came out like 5 years ago, like whether it's Doom or LA Noire, I mean those are high-end
newer
AAA
games.
titles.
Yep.
Newer games though. When you get one of those that have had like a HD remake for that, the game is at least like you're not super buggy with it. You're not worried about like it crashing because it needs to be updates. It's optimized for that system. And I think that's one of the benefits of Nintendo kind of delaying getting those newer games, because when they get them as a full complete, kind of like definitive editions of them.
But developers just don't want to develop for them because they just don't see as much of an audience. Because
but if they got a good enough back catalog, they can port all that over and make sure that it runs decently.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that they do come out with, they're not just putting out games left and right. Well, Nintendo has put out some bad games. I'm not going to deny that.
What?
But
lies.
But at the same time, like a lot of their big story games, Mario, Super Smash Brothers, you can always depend on those being solid games. Yeah, I can understand the lack of variety, but again, not having much time to play games as a parent, I like that because I can jump from Super Smash Brothers to the next Super Smash Brothers and know what the heck is going on.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, well, it was Super Smash Brothers, right? That's just a mashup of every single character possible, too. How important is like mascot characters to you guys? Because like Nintendo has a roster of lovable characters, and I mean that's identifiable.
Talking about my kid liking Yoshi.
That go into that.
And that's honestly that's it too, because it's not so much as dads, so we're not really determining their games as much as they want to play like Minecraft. I'm not choosing to introduce him to Minecraft. Minecraft is in the world, and he is interested and he wants to play Minecraft. So I have to figure out how to get Minecraft for him. And mascot characters, Nintendo owns. They own the whole idea of mascot characters because, like you said, Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers is just a mashup of like 30 different video games and the characters from all of them, and that's huge for kids because kids identify Mario. Like they recently mentioned, I want to say it was a Wall Street Journal, that they said Pikachu is more identifiable than Mickey Mouse. That is massive.
Yeah.
Switching one mouse for another.
I know, but to think that a video game character that came out in the 90s, in the late 90s, is more identifiable than a mouse that's been out for almost 100 years, that's insane.
Yeah. Well, and my kid, the whole character thing, I mean, my son loves Yoshi because my wife and I, she got like some coupon to get a new Nintendo game. So of course we'd been playing a little bit of Mario Kart, or Mario Kart was his first thing that he really liked. So he had seen some of the characters in that. And so he kind of knew Mario characters. And so she was like looking at different games. I'm like, get Yoshi. It's Woolly World.
So you had to figure out a game like, what would he like to watch us play?
Well, what would be appropriate for him to play that we can play and enjoy, and he can watch and have fun. Like that's kind of where we're at with games. So, and my wife isn't a big gamer, so something simpler is better for her as well.
Casual games. Yeah.
Yeah, she is the epitome of casual gamer. So
Except
me,
for when it comes to that Jurassic Park game, man, she is hardcore on that.
And
was it Operation Genesis on
Operation Genesis? Yeah,
on
she actually was
PlayStation
playing
2?
that with my kid the other day.
Oh,
and
dude,
he
she will
loved it.
hardcore build a Jurassic Park theme park and jack up the price on all the concessions.
Yeah, that's kind of her her game.
That's her hardcore game.
But we got Yoshi's Woolly World, and that game, first of all, Nintendo did it right. Like, I don't know why that game isn't bigger than what it is, because it is awesome, because it's easy to play, but it's difficult as heck sometimes.
It can be, yep.
But like, yeah, there's different, like they got all the different colors of Yoshis and different names for them, and my kid loves it. He yells, what is it, for the lava Yoshi and all the different Yoshis. Like he loves it.
The art design, I would have to jump in and say that the art design is actually what makes that game a little more unique.
Yeah.
I think it stands out. Like, I was a big fan of Epic Kirby, which was basically the prequel to that game. And it was just Kirby in that yarn world, and it stands out because Kirby couldn't fly. I mean, that's a Kirby game where Kirby doesn't fly kind of stands out as a bad thing. But with how unique the game design was on it, it didn't bother you when you played it. You didn't even think about it. And I feel like Yoshi kind of felt the same way. I've played other Yoshi games, but that one felt really unique. And for some reason, my kids loved, like, when you pull the tabs and something falls apart in yarn, they love that.
Yeah. Well, and just the sound effects, actually, my kid loves. Like, he would do yah all the time. That's what he would just run around. And he loved that game so much that we literally, to keep him entertained, we would watch, we just put on YouTube, like, run-throughs or...
Oh, just like speed runs and let's plays?
You know, like, yeah, just
Bruce,
examples of how to get all the secret stuff of the game. And we would just play that and let him watch that, because that would keep him entertained for a while. Now, going back to screen time, maybe not the best idea, but it allowed us to get stuff cleaned around the house while he was just watching that, which was really weird, like a complete different thing that, I mean, you'd always put in a movie, but no, I can put on just someone playing a video game and he'll watch, and he loves it. Like, he's giggling and like would scream every time you finish a level. Like, he loves Yoshi because of that game, and I completely enjoy playing it with him. And that's also a 2-player game. No, David, you were mentioning that that game has like a
mellow mode, right?
Mellow mode, yeah. And I remember seeing it. I think I've played it through.
What is the mellow mode? Explain that for the listeners.
Well, this is something really intelligent by Nintendo, and I think that more and more kids games are kind of adapting this concept that, hey, maybe we can dumb a game down to nothing because kids will also feel accomplished for beating it. So in a game like Wally World does ramp its difficulty as it goes, like a game should. But what they're like...
You caught that too, right?
Yes,
right?
I did.
Okay.
Yoshi's Woolly World.
No, it's Wally World.
Wally
It's
World.
Wally World. You gave me crap about how I make up words earlier.
I'm making up games, not words.
Whatever, man. Just
So...
like how we just had that moment where he just looked at each other and he's like, did he just say
Mellow
Wally
Mode,
World?
what they did is they added where Yoshi gets wings. So instead of it being platforming, you can fly through
So
the level.
it's like a super easy mode then?
Yeah, and you're pretty much invincible.
Does that take away though from kids learning challenge and like goals and accomplishments? Because games can be a good teaching tool as well.
It could be a clutch if you wanted it to, but then it just becomes a completely different type of game. And yeah, it would keep things not as difficult, but then on the other hand, they will want to play it longer because they're not going to get to a point where they get stuck.
Because they're getting less frustrated with it then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially depending on how young you go. Like if his son started playing by himself at 5, I have a feeling that mellow mode would go a long way for him versus someone
playing the
that's,
game, and not getting frustrated.
Yeah.
And my son was playing Chibi Robo yesterday.
Isn't that where you run around like plug yourself in? Those are
yeah, you're like a little
GameCube, right?
No, it's for the 3DS.
Oh, they did. Okay, they did 3DS
and
one.
You're like a little socket running around doing stuff, and he got stuck on like this really simple thing. I did the one jump for him, and he played like 3 more levels after that by himself, and it was like that one little thing could have stopped him from playing the rest of the game because of the frustration. It's like, but.
I feel like that was in our games though, growing up too, because like there was always like a jump you couldn't make in a certain game, and then you go back and play that game as an adult and you beat it, and then you like end up finishing that game that afternoon.
Or it's Wolverine on Sega, and then you realize that it wasn't you. It
Animentium Rage.
It was the game.
It was the game just being poorly designed. There's a lot of bad stuff.
Or the
like
final
that.
boss to Aladdin that you can't beat no matter how many
I
times
beat that
you,
when I was a kid. I don't
Did
even
you?
know what you're talking about.
I would always get to the boss and I could never beat the game, and it would frustrate me. I'm like, it's the game. It has to be the game. As an adult play, I beat it. I was like, man,
Okay.
I sucked as a kid.
With us being golden age gamers and being born in the 80s, we were still around when arcades were a thing. Like, I distinctly have memories of going with my parents to the arcade. So I pose the question to you. There is still very few arcades around, but they do exist. Would you guys ever do a pilgrimage to take your kids to an arcade?
No,
What?
I wouldn't. I mean, arcades are not what they used to be. Like,
No, I mean
they-
like a legit arcade. I'm not talking like a Chuck E. Cheese or like a little tiny.
Chuck
like,
E. Cheese and Dave and Buster are
Those don't count.
They do count.
They don't count. No, I mean like a legit actual arcade. Like there's
Those don't exist.
Galloping Ghost in Chicago. Screw you.
So you're telling me I have to go to another state to go to one?
It's a pilgrimage. That's why I phrased it with the word pilgrimage, bro.
Let me tell my kids that, hey, you have to wait 4 hours in the car to play a video game.
But there's
and then see
something
their
about the
response.
environment, man.
Yeah, I'm not as a hardcore no, but I do understand where David is coming from, because the fact that, yeah, there isn't really any good arcades
Okay,
around
we
anymore.
do kind of got Stella's. That kind of counts.
Well, that's an adult. I'm not going to bring my kid to a bar.
it's not a
Although
bar
I
during
did do
the day.
that. I did do that when he was 3 days old.
It's a
so I will
barcade.
say that.
It's a barcade, and it's it's family restaurant during the day.
No,
You can
it's,
totally go in
it's
there.
not a family
I-
restaurant.
yes,
Bruce.
it
I'm
is.
not bringing my kid.
I see
down
kids
to
in there
that
all
part
the
of
time
town,
because I'm
period.
sitting there going, "Get off the
I agree.
Simpsons machine. It's my turn."
The only time I'm bringing my kid down there is when they're an infant, and
Yeah,
maybe
when-
then
when
just
they don't
for
know
Yeah,
whatever.
better
you're like,
yet.
"Hey guys, I just had this baby. You guys want to order me a burger and buy me a beer?"
We literally did that, so that's fine.
I know you did that. I was making fun of you.
Here's an observation. I love Stella's, but see the difference. See how you didn't think it was a big deal and I do? Here are 3 things you didn't think of. They have mature TV on all the time in Stella's. So there's always that. The crowd, no, hold on.
Look, I was trying to equate to something
And
closer because
Stella's
you guys were saying
just-
the road trip issue.
Yeah,
Come on.
and I think you mentioned it just so people that aren't from the area. Stella's is, a barcade.
yes.
They
serve food during the day, though. Families are welcome. Like, I think they kick like anyone out under 21 at
At
like
9 o'clock because it's a state law.
Is it? I thought it was sooner than that. I thought it was like 6.
9 o'clock state law.
Well, there you go. I don't know laws very well.
that might explain something
a
from a while ago. Sorry.
But, so as far as your,
Did I say something incriminating?
okay, so if you were to say that there was an actual arcade,
Yeah,
that
there's
wa-
an actual
in
like
town-
legit like you used to go to as a kid. Like maybe not as shady because there's not like the dude with the like short shorts and the like crotch mounted change dispenser. A little cleaner than that.
But what do you get from an arcade that you can't get from a home console now? Because home console pretty much devoured the arcade industry.
because I think it's the environment. I think it's the atmosphere. It's almost like going to a circus, which circuses don't even exist anymore, do they?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think I get what David's saying. I'll say that there are some experiences you can't get. Some of the gun stuff. I mean, yeah, you got the Wii remote, but actually holding like a plastic gun and stuff, that is kind of a cool.
and see, that's why I said Dave and Buster's was,
Yeah.
or even Craig's Cruisers, because those are all Michigan companies that have big arcades in their buildings, which it's great, but I don't want to pay $3 for a Walking Dead game for 30 seconds.
Yeah, but here's the thing. No, like when you go to these, like for instance, I looked into this one because we were gonna go and try to plan like a mini road trip. But it's you get a wristband and it's unlimited. And you just get to roam. So it's kind of like that. But I think like the stuff at like Craig's Cruisers or Dave and Buster's is just overly commercialized, newer stuff. It's not here's a row of arcade games. It's here's a phone app that's also an arcade game. Because I walked in there and I'm like, buddy wanted to bring her daughter there, and she's all like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go Craig's Cruisers. You want to, come by, blah, 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 we'll hang out and everything." And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm in the area. I drop in on him. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to get a couple quarters, go play a couple games and everything. And I'm looking around at it and I'm like, I don't want to play Fruit Ninja. Why the hell do I want to play Fruit Ninja? That's like if it's something you can get on your phone, then why would I play it there? I want some weird fun thing. They had Pac-Man Versus. That was dope.
You mean Pac-Man that DX?
Yeah, where it's like 4-player versus mode. Oh, that was legit.
But again,
good.
I can play that exact game on console at home with other people.
But it was at least a fun, unique experience because everyone has their own little control area. You know, there's something different about it. There's something tactile. There's something about the lights, the sounds of the environment. I mean, it's a casino for kids, yo.
And that's really what I think that's what the arcades have evolved into, is basically become casinos for kids.
Brian, you got something you want to say?
Well, I mean, I would say casinos for kids, and except for the parents are paying the price.
Well, like I said, if you do like one of those unlimited days,
I agree that it is a unique experience. I would agree with that with you, Bruce. But
it's an event. That's why I said it's a pilgrimage.
It's kind of a split. Like, yeah, would I do it? But yeah, I don't.
At what age would you then deem that? Like,
it just depends on their interest level, I think, of games and their ability to play different games and stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of, I'm 50-50 on them myself.
Well, do you think that you are gonna go and continue to have your kid game? Do you think that like the games that you've introduced or that your kids have seen, do you think that they're gonna take hold like you did? Like, why was the reason why you kind of picked up gaming? Because like it was a thing that was still emerging when we were growing up. There's a lot of people nowadays that don't play games. It is more mainstream now than what it was. But
I mean, for my kid, I'm not going to push them in any way. It's just more
push them like people push their kids into sports. They're like, you better get good at Mario 3. If you can't beat Sonic 2 Casino World.
Like, that's why I keep on saying I want to play with my kid. Like, I want to play games with him. And if he wants to play other stuff, cool. Like, and I'm sure he will just because he is my kid. But at the same time, like, if he doesn't, I don't care. Like, more game time for me, I guess. Like, what?
And that's exactly it. Like, you don't want to force it on them, because what's going to happen if you force certain things on them? They may resist against that and go towards something else. But if you naturally show them things and see what they gravitate towards, and then you kind of to work with what they like, you can actually grow something out of that. And I like having both a boy and a girl is interesting, because the boy is really into zombies and shooting and things like that.
Your girl is your oldest, yeah.
Yep. But my girl likes to read a lot. She's really big into books, so she's not much of a gamer, actually.
You gonna drop some RPGs on her, though?
And I already have. I mean, you can't deny the elephant in the room, which is Pokemon. Pokemon is essential to kids now. Like, Pokemon cards in school is like a currency like cigarettes are for prisons.
That's a great analogy.
It is, because my son will be like, I got a Tootsie Roll. I just had to trade him my like rarest card for it.
Oh.
And you know, it's things like that. Like, Pokemon is such an essential part of being a kid right now, because somehow you have the TV shows, you have movies, you have the video games that are still selling 20 million copies every time they release. So, and then what Pokemon Go was a phenomenon in itself amongst all ages. Pokemon is dominant in the kids sector of video games, and my daughter likes to read, and Pokemon is just a natural first RPG for any kid. And you know, I think 8 years old is a good starting point for that, because that's when they can really actually read and understand what they're reading.
Yeah, I would say somewhere between that 6 and 8 is probably when gaming really starts at least developing a little bit more past just like, oh, I want to try to play something.
Yep, and there's the understanding, and I feel like achievement in itself is another big part. Now, I noticed with the 9-year-old, she likes beating levels. She's really into moving on and things, and just getting further and further. My son can play the same 10 minutes. Like, he'll put in Plants vs. Zombies and do the infinite run mode on it, where it's just zombies are infinitely coming and you're just constantly stacking up. He's just okay doing that one thing over and over and over again. He's just as entertained as my daughter that is trying to get through levels. And they play very different.
You're not a coiner, though. I'd say like Brian is a coiner and you're not. So like Brian plays like your son, and you play like your daughter. Cause like you're like, oh, I beat this game. And I'm like, oh, how was it? And you're like, good. And it's like your completion rate is like 68%. Like there's still like 40%. And you're like, no, I beat the story. It's fine. It's done. I'm over with.
You say that, like, but that's not actually 100% true on my part. But I do get what you're saying.
No, you go back and you try to, get collectibles.
I'm okay with just doing this. What'd you say? Coiner? I've never even heard that phrase.
Coiner is like taken from like the whole, like when you go through Mario and you're like, if I see a coin, I get a coin.
Yeah. Collecting everything.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy just because those are what I get to do with my kids. Just play to play. I don't get to be serious. But when they're not in the room or something and I can, like, yeah, Mario Kart, dude, I've played everything on Mario Kart. I have on Mario Kart for Wii U, I literally have all the gold or 3-star trophies for everything but 200, which I have at least
200
trophied.
is so difficult.
Yep.
Oh man, that is so difficult.
I've gotten a trophy on every one of the 200cc
Coiner.
ones. But I mean so I do want to get I do want to win and stuff like that. But when it's just with my kids, I'm just having fun.
Yep.
We're just playing.
And it is interesting, like even going forward, I can see the same patterns getting even further. Like when I was a kid, when we were all kids, story was pretty much a non-existent thing in video games. Like most of the games, very vague, basic ideas and concepts. They were never full blown out stories. And I even remember like Final Fantasy VII. That's one of the reasons that's a really impactful game for me. That was my first experience actually like being really invested into a story of a video game. Because before that, I played a lot of dumb random stuff. I just didn't care before
You
the
played
PlayStation.
stuff that had gameplay, not story.
Yeah, and now once I found that there were a game type that I actually like, and that's what I'm excited to see with my kids. What type are they going to get into? Is my son going to be one of those silly Call of Duty people that, they only like playing Call of Duty and that, they only buy a console for Call of Duty? Or is he going to be the one that actually finds a story of a game? Or is he going to be a coiner where he wants every game he plays, he has to get 100% and get a platinum trophy in it? There's all these types of like subgroups that you can kind of become in video games now. And I'm curious to see which way they go. But like my daughter, I can already see she likes reading books. She likes stories. So I'm going to try to find easy RPGs to kind of ease her into that part of the industry.
What about games that only have gameplay, don't have a story, and then you get dragged to the movie too? Did you have to go see the Angry Birds movie when that came out?
I didn't have to see the Angry Birds movie, but my son wanted to,
and
I know better.
Was it not good?
Bruce, we've seen video game movies. That just goes in the long line of video game movies where it's
that
not
goes
gonna be
in,
good.
that goes into my final question then for the show, and that is, how soon is too soon to introduce your child to the Super Mario Brothers movie?
I know your kid likes Mario.
Oh man.
Do you just wipe that from existence, or do you go, hey, there's a movie for Mario, and he's like, oh, I want to see it, and you're like, no, you don't.
Yeah, I don't.
Friend of the show, Ned loves that movie.
I know he does, but I haven't actually watched that. I would have to rewatch it to even remember.
It's not kid appropriate.
No,
at all.
I know it's not, but like I would have to rewatch it to give you a straight answer on that. But my answer would probably be I will let him discover it on his own, which will probably be years.
I don't want my
road.
kid blaming me for having to watch Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I guess where I would kind of want to wrap up is name like 5 games that you would recommend to play with your kids. Like what would you recommend for good kids? For the people listening, we really should recommend more than the few games we've talked about. But what are some other games that without any depth, you can just say you should play this game?
I mean, I can recommend most Mario games. I mean, my kid, for example, Mario Party. He loves watching us play Mario Party, and I could see him playing that pretty quickly. Mario Kart, another one. He loves watching us play. Could probably play quickly. Yoshi's Woolly World, I mentioned. My wife actually had a lot of fun with the Lego series. She plays a lot of Lego.
And we didn't even talk about the Lego
man.
games, and I've played all but the Star Wars ones.
Yeah, and my wife plays.
Really, you haven't played the Star Wars ones?
Star Wars ones were
Star
fun.
Wars ones are the best.
I don't like Star Wars.
Oh, you're awful.
kid
This is
loves
why
Star
you're
Wars.
a terrible human being.
Actually, that's like I wouldn't put it as one of mine to watch, but my kid loves watching me play Star Wars Rogue Squadron for GameCube.
Really?
He loves watching me play because he loves Star Wars, so
Yep.
he gets to see an X-wing. But I would think for other ones, like honestly, he's just enjoyed old school gaming. Like whenever I put in Skitchin, I love Skitchin. That can be a whole nother subject. But Skitchin for Sega, anyone hasn't checked it out, you need to check it out. It's Road Rage on skates.
It's Road Rash on skates.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
dude, it's Road Rash on skates. We'll play it after the show.
No, what I have? 1, 2, and 3 Extreme for PlayStation 1.
Oh, yeah?
And that's kind of, the road rash where you're on the bicycle just kind of
No,
kicking at their
actually, you
tires.
know what? Skitchin is like pretty much the precursor to
Really?
X1, X2.
And I guess where I would lie with some of this is, you have your Pokemon games, but
Pokemon would probably be another one.
look at all the Pokemon games. I would still recommend playing the first ones, either blue or red, because we tried with yellow. Yellow is way harder.
Really, why is that?
because you have to use that stupid Pikachu, and the whole like first part of the you get Pikachu. Oh, the first boss is rock, so you have to like really build up a resistance to that by over leveling your characters to go against the first trainer. But outside of Pokemon Blue or Red, a game that I found that I really like playing with my daughter, Viva Pinata.
Viva Pinata for 360.
It's kind of like this cult game, but all you're doing, it's a sim game. It's almost like a zoo sim game where you're breeding animals and bringing animals to your like garden. It's a really simple, fun game, but it's great for kids. And then a game I bought 2 days ago, Disney Afternoon Collection. It's basically you have your retro games. It's got 4 games on it, and I can only remember a couple. It's Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, DuckTales, and there's another game on there. I think it's Chip 'n Dale.
Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. And those games
DuckTales is great.
Well, they're still brutally hard for kids, but what they did is they added a rewind button. At any point in time, you can hold R2, and it brings you back inches, miles, however far back you want to go. So you can beat the game with as many mistakes as you want because you can just rewind every time you mess up. So it makes it's kind of like that mellow mode where it's really it's introducing.
It's like running a save state then on the game. That's awesome.
And there's also save states. You can save the game anytime you want.
Oh, nice.
So this game it's a hard game, but it's watered down by some of the modification they've made to it. And there's also just boss rush modes on all the games.
Nice. So you can learn all the patterns of the bosses.
So I thought those were all really great games. And then one game I actually liked a lot with playing with my kids, Marvel vs. Capcom.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you're okay with your kid playing a fighting game, well, you should probably start with a game without blood.
Right.
So Marvel vs. Capcom, you can be superheroes.
Yeah. And
fighting. And kids like fighting games because you don't have to know anything.
Just button mash.
They can button mash. My daughter beats me all the time because I'm not good at fighting games anyways. And she could just, what do we play? We played Street Fighter. Just punch, punch, punch. And they feel accomplished because they get to beat their parents at games. And it's like dumb luck because they're just jumping and punching over and over again. And it's like it kind of works out because there are enough fighting games where you have a kind of a selection on what do you really want to play. Like I can't wait for Bryce, my son, to actually play Soul Calibur where he can be Link.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, in general, fighting games, that's an interesting thing I didn't even think of. But yeah, as a kid, like that was one of the first games that I could actually win at because I just button smash everything, and it's like, hey, I won.
Do you got to watch the content with that though? Because fighting and violence and hitting
the cartoon stuff, or
that's why.
I imagine the superheroes thing kind of works well.
Well, Mortal Kombat ran into quite a bit of slack because that was our big first mature.
Oh yeah, well that was in
line.
Arcades too. So,
but I'm not letting them play that. But even I let my daughter play Injustice, which Injustice has a button where you can turn the blood off. So they're still superheroes. It's a little more mature. And I wouldn't recommend it for young kids, but at the same time, it's still just a fighting game where you're fighting with superheroes.
The difficulty on that fighting game, though, to learn is super hard, though.
It's not when you button mash, though. There's no difficulty curve to just smashing the controller.
Fair enough. Well, I think that kind of wraps us up then for this week.
Games and dads. We did this.
Dads and games. Want to throw a special thanks to you for coming and doing this, man. This is awesome to have you on.
And using all your sweet equipment.
Oh, I know. Your rig is way more impressive than mine for audio recording.
I mean, we were even mentioning we're just not in the nursery. It just feels kind of strange.
Yeah, we're actually in a living room. I'm actually on a couch. I'm a troll legit on a couch.
He is a couch. They are both couch trolls where I am a comfy chair troll.
Well, that's our show. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Couch Trolls podcast. If you like this episode, you can find more on Facebook by searching Couch Trolls or on Twitter at Couch_Trolls. I'm your announcer, Canada Sanchez, with Brian doing the sound. Thanks for listening.